Hi there and welcome to the Cyberhut TV. My name is Simon Moffat, founder and analyst at the Cyberhut, and in this series I get to interview all the exciting founders and experts in the global identity security space and get to understand what is their mission and vision around why they're building technology in this area. And I'm actually thrilled to have Alex from Conductor One with me. Alex, thanks for joining me.
Hey Simon, thanks for having me on.
Not at all. I appreciate founders building out amazing companies, so I appreciate taking a few minutes out of that busy schedule to have a quick chat with me. And for those who haven't seen one of these episodes before, I essentially ask three very important questions of Alex, put him on the spot, as it were, to understand a little bit more about Conductor One. And I always start with the same question, which is what is the problem that Conductor One is looking to solve?
Yeah, so Conductor One is a modern identity governance solution geared towards solving identity governance from a security perspective, not just an IT perspective. So the main problem here is that sort of traditional governance solutions, might have taken a really long time to get up and running. Slow implementations they might have driven some of the automation, but really didn't drive the security outcomes, which we believe is just an increasingly big part of the identity landscape, is really securing those identities and the permissions and access in your environment. So Conductor One is built, from a least privilege access perspective, from an automation perspective, automating onboarding and offboarding, helping customers achieve just-in-time access and permission management, reducing the standing footprint of access. Is sort of, again, like a traditional governance approach, but applied from a security context.
I love that. It's the two worlds colliding. It's that identity governance and that security angle in there as well. And again, the other word I like to know was the outcomes thing, isn't it? It's
Yes.
looking at the outcomes of what this stuff is trying to achieve, which I think is really important. But one thing I heard relatively recently was the vast majority of existing IGA projects are in distress, and it is often due to a lack of outcomes, perhaps a lack of coverage. I think that speed aspect is definitely part of that distress as well. But I guess that sort of segues into question number two is why, I guess, is this becoming a bigger problem now? IGA has been around for quite a while in various incarnations, but is it just the fact that existing technology is not good enough, or is there something different here?
Yeah, it's a little bit of some of the existing technology isn't really addressing the problem, but I think the problem has also evolved. I think the problem used to be, SOX compliance for publicly regulated companies. That was like one of the biggest drivers really for the governance adoption previously. What we're seeing is that companies, I think something like 75 or 80% of companies experience some sort of like identity related breach, typically like on a yearly basis. It's a really prolific problem. And security teams are waking up to that. They're realizing that identity is not just how people get access. It's actually one of the most important assets in your business. And so you have to secure it if you want to protect against breaches. You have to make sure people are getting the right permissions, the right access, they're onboarded correctly, you're identifying orphaned accounts. You're kind of addressing a lot of these issues that are just core to the identity security problem. And I think part of the reason that's become such a major problem now is that companies have shifted, they've adopted the cloud, they have tons of applications, they have app and identity sprawl throughout their entire organization. And that's just really changed the landscape. It's changed the landscape from 3 or 4 SOX in scope applications to I have tons of stuff in the cloud, tons of applications, tons of permissions, infrastructure, and I'm really worried about securing the access for that, not just sort of achieving like the compliance outcome of 3 or 4 on-prem apps.
Yeah, I think that's definitely right. I think there's definitely more people interested in this area, and by that, CISO or the security angle in there as well. I think it's interesting tracking things like data breach reports or investigation reports. At some stage, it boils down to identity, and whether it's excessive permissions, orphaned accounts, redundant accounts, privilege escalation, privilege misuse, it's typically always in there at some level. And I think because of that, I think as you say, the CISO is suddenly now being asked questions which he can't answer. historically, and I think it's making IGA much more of a bigger problem statement, I think, than it was even maybe 3 or 4 years ago, which is a difficult thing to try and unpick. I guess that then sort of wraps up into the third part is to why are Conductor One good at this? What's your secret sauce to try and tackle some of these problems?
Yeah, so part of the reason that we're the best place to solve it is that we're all identity people at Conductor One. So my background is in identity. My co-founder's background is in identity. A bunch of the executive leadership is from identity and security. And a bunch of our team is from identity and security. We just have like this phenomenal team with strong backgrounds in the identity and security space. And obviously that's not 100% of everybody, but it's a big part of it. And I think that understanding and having our background sort of rooted in understanding the problems associated with identity and the security problems associated with identity really positions us to, I think, best understand how to solve these problems for customers. And also we have a very customer focused, success sort of oriented culture in the company. So getting those security outcomes, driving and building the right product from a security standpoint, but then also doing it in the context of let's make sure that 50% of our deployments are not distressed. Let's make sure that we're making customers successful and that they're really happy with the product.
Love that. I think success it's a tricky thing to measure, but I think you're right around working with the customers on that journey, looking at metrics, looking at outcomes, and not just, I think historically deploying IGA was, as you mentioned, it was a compliance thing, and it was, you do the bare minimum, you do enough to go through that internal and external audit, but I think that often introduced that lack of accountability, lack of real improvement. But I think, as you described there, I think identity, governance, permissions management, all of that now is fundamental to the security foundation. I think it's also fundamental to things like data collaboration, be able to share things, be able to deliver partnerships within the workforce and others. So I think IGA has a huge part to play now across the entire B2B landscape, which I think it's exciting for likes of yourselves to tackle that opportunity. So, Alex, thanks for taking a bit of time out there. I think it's a fascinating space. I think it's a problem statement which is only getting bigger and bigger. You mentioned cloud. There's more identities. There are more systems that need protecting. Different types of systems. We didn't get onto non-human identities either, but I think that also has a bit of an IGA aspect in there as well. But thanks for taking a bit of time out of your busy schedule. Totally appreciate that. This has been another episode in our vendor introduction series where we get to interview exciting founders in our identity security community. Well, thank you to Alex. Thank you for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon.